Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kunal here. Today we are going to read about the sustainable development. Chapter 25, Sustainable Development. Chapter at a glance. According to the report, Our Common Future by M.S. Harlem Brundtland, sustainable development is defined as a development that satisfies the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to satisfy theirs. This report, published in 1987 by the United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development, insists on the need to protect the diversity of genes, species, and all terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem in nature. Preserving the overall balance, respect for the environment, and preventing the exhaustion of the natural resources. Reduced production of waste and the rationalism of production and energy consumption must also be implemented. The prime need for sustainable development is the conservation of natural resources. Sustainable development is the need of the present time, not only for the survival of mankind but also for its future protection. Economic disparity, social inequality, and environmental degradation are the main causes of unsustainability. The three main components of the sustainable development include economic development, social development, and environmental development. In order to attain sustainable development, the government has to ensure that there are institutional mechanics in place to achieve sustainable development in all three areas. A strategic approach is required in maintaining a balance between social, economic, and environmental challenges. In 1972, the Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment marked the first great international meetings on how human activities were harming the environment and putting humans at risk. The conference has led the establishment of numerous national environmental protection agencies and the United Nations Environmental Programme. In 1987, the UN unsponsored Brundtland Commission released Our Common Future, a report that captured widespread concerns about the environment and the poverty in many parts of the world. This report contained the most frequently quoted definition of sustainable development. Sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The definition contains two key concepts. The concept of needs, in particular the essential needs of the world's poor, to which overriding priority should be given, and the idea of limitations imposed by the state of technology and social organizations on the environment's ability to meet present and future needs. The Brundtland report also mentioned that economic development cannot stop but must change course to fit within the planet's ecological limits. In 1992, world attention on the sustainability peaked at the UN Conference on Environment and Development (UNCED). In Rio de Janeiro, Rio produced two international agreements: the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Framework Convention on the Climate Change. Two statements of principles: the Rio Declaration on the Environment and Development and the non-binding statement of principles for the sustainable management of forests, and a major action agenda, Agenda 21, on worldwide sustainable development. The Rio Summit was allowed by several other conferences such as Global Conference, the World Summit on Social Development, the Fourth World Conference on Women, etc. The focus was on following the path of sustainable development. In all countries, in all parts of the ecosystem, whether on land, water, or air, the United Nations Foundation is committed to helping the UN achieve the Millennium Development Goals by 2015. These goals are a commitment by the UN to establish peace and a healthy global economy by focusing on major issues like poverty, children's health, empowerment of women and girls, sustainable environment, disease and development. In 2004, Delhi mandates; in 2005, Kyoto Protocol; in 2007, Montreal Protocol; in 2009, the G20 Pittsburgh Summit, etc., were some conferences for taking significant decisions and agreements towards the direction of sustainable development. This continued to the Doha in 2012. The agenda of sustainable development is also an inclusive growth. That means a pattern of development that involves all sections of the community, the well of the door, men and women. Such a pattern of growth is based on the need to preserve the diversity of the ecosystem. The importance of structured institutions like the various ministries and the departments in attaining sustainability cannot be denied. Indian laws on sustainable development can broadly be seen to have developed in four distinct but overlapping phases. First phase 1972 to 1983, second phase 1984 to 1997, the third phase 1998 to 2007, fourth phase 2005 and beyond. The 2005 and beyond. The focus is the first phase was on the protection of the environment. The focus in the second phase was on ensuring social equity and justice. The focus in the third phase was on combining economic development with social and environmental issues, and the fourth phase is marked by the rights based approach. In text question 25.1. Question 1. Define sustainable development. Sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. It contains within the two concepts. First, the concept of needs, in particular the essential needs for the world's poor, to which overriding priority should be given, and the idea of limitations imposed by the state of technology and social organization on the environment's ability to meet present and the future needs. Question number 2. What are the threats to sustainable development? Answer. The threats of sustainable development or the causes of unsustainability are: first, overpopulation; second, overexploitation of natural resources such as fuel, fodder, and order to fulfill human needs; third, human activities like fishing, agriculture, overuse of fresh water, deforestation, and industrialization; fourth, land clearing process responsible for problems like soil degradation, pollution, loss of biodiversity, deforestation, desertification, climate change; fifth, social degradation due to factors like increasing unemployment, health crisis, armed conflicts, urbanization, poverty, and income inequality. In-text questions 225.2. Question 1. What are the components of sustainable development? The various components of sustainable components broadly classified into three main headings, that is economy, society, and environment. The broad components of economy include rural development, urban development, and industry. The broad components of society include health, employment, social security, education, and protection of vulnerable sections of the societies like women, children. The broad components of environment involve land, water, environmental awareness, energy and power, and science and technology. Can you tell the name of some targeted areas for sustainable development in the economy? The targeted areas for sustainable development in the economy are rural development, urban development, and industry. Which ministry looks after the health of the people? The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare looks after the health of the people. Question 4. Give an example of how environmental degradation can be reduced. By making aware the farmers about the eco-friendly agricultural practices like crop rotation, natural fertilizers, and pesticides, the environmental degradation can be reduced. Besides, common people must be encouraged to plant more and more trees at their neighborhood area in order to protect environment. In text question 25 2.1. What was the main theme of Stockholm Declaration? What was the main theme of Stockholm Declaration? The United Nations Conference on the Human Environment was held in Stockholm in 1972. The 1972 Stockholm Declaration is the key instrument of modern international environmental law. It provided a negotiated framework within which sovereign states could develop a coordinated and a cooperative approach towards international environmental law. It highlights the consequences of unrestrained growth and the linkages between the several global problems. Question 2. Why was the Commission on Sustainable Development CSD established? Answer. A Commission on Sustainable Development CSD was established to follow up the Rio Agreements of 1992 and for monitoring the agreements of the Earth Summit at the local, national, regional, and the international levels. The main focus was on equal consideration of environment, society, and economy. What does WSSD stand for and what is its agenda? Answer. The WSSD stand for the World Summit on Sustainable Development. The WSSD was held in the Johannesburg, South Africa. This was a 10-year review in 2002 of the Earth Summit. Rio Summit 1992. Its main agenda is to advocate the nations to make progress in the formulation and implementation of strategies for sustainable development and to begin implementing them by 2005. In-text question 25 2.2. Question 1. What does the term Millennium Development Goals mean? Millennium Development Goals include a set of plans that was made by the United Nations in 2000 to try to reduce hunger, disease, illiteracy, discrimination against women, and improve the environment and other conditions in poor countries around the world. In 2004, Delhi mandates. In 2005, Kyoto Protocol. In 2007, Montreal Protocol are some brief overview of some significant decisions and agreements under the term Millennium Development Goals. Question 2. What is the Kyoto Protocol? The Kyoto Protocol was the first agreement between nations to mandate country by country reductions in the greenhouse gas emission. Kyoto emerged from the UN Framework Convention on the Climate Changes (UNFCCC), which was signed by nearly all nations at the 1992 mega meeting popularly known as the Earth Summit. The framework pledges to stabilize greenhouse gases concentrations at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. The Kyoto Protocol entered into force in 2005 and it legally binds developed countries to goals for greenhouse gases emission reduction. It also binds developing countries to establish clean development mechanics. Question number 3. Under which protocol did countries agree to phase out HCFSs? Answer. During Montreal Protocol in 2007, countries agreed to an accelerated phase out schedule for hydrochlorofluorocarbons, as this was the major reason behind the depletion of the ozone layer. Question 4. Where and when did various countries agree to extend the Kyoto Protocol that was to end in 2012 to 2020? In the 2012 United Nations Climate Change Conference was held in Doha, where all the countries agreed to extend the Kyoto Protocol that was to end in 2012 and 2020. It was also agreed to renegate the agreement reached in Durban by 2015 and to implement it by 2020. In text question 25.3. What is the need for sustainable development? List any 2 factors that are important for attaining sustainable development. Sustainability and sustainable development focuses on balancing that fine line between competing needs, our need to move forward technologically and economically, and the need to protect the environment in which we and others live. Sustainability is not just about the environment, it is also about our health as a society, ensuring that no longer our areas of life suffer as a result of environmental legislation, and it's also about examining the longer term effects of the actions humanity takes and making questions about how it may be improved. In short, sustainable development is needed to preserve the diversity of ecosystem. 2 factors that are important for attaining sustainable development are: first, conservation of natural and cultural diversity; second, sustainable use of resources and minimizing the depletion of resources. Question 2. What is the agenda of sustainable development? The agenda of sustainable development involves the universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. In short, an all inclusive growth. That means a pattern of development that involves all sections of the community, the well off, the poor, men and women. Such a pattern of growth is based on the need to preserve the diversity of the ecosystem. In text question 25 4.1. Question 1. What was the focus in the first phase of the environmental law in India? The main focus in the first phase on the environmental law in India was to protect the environment. During this phase, various constitutional amendments were made and different legislations were enacted in order to protect the wildlife and to arrest water and air pollution. Several acts in relevance with the environment were formulated, such as Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the Water Prevention and the Control of Pollution Act of 1974, the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, and the Air Prevention and the Control of Pollution Act of 1981. Question 2. Point out the importance of Article 51A. Answer. In the Article 51A, the protection of the environment was made a fundamental duty of all the citizens. Question 3. When did the Bhopal gas tragedy occur? The Bhopal gas tragedy occurs in 1984. What was the response of the Indian lawmakers to the Rio Declaration? The Rio Declaration urged nations to develop laws regarding liabilities and compensation to victims of pollution and other environmental damages. In response, two acts were formulated by the Indian lawmakers, that is National Environment Tribunal Act 1995 repeal and the National Environment Appellate Authority Act, that these have been subsequently replaced by the new National Green Tribunal Act of 2010. Significantly, after Rio, many of these environmental principles have been accepted as a part of Article 21, Right to Life. In text question 25 4.4. What is the focus on the Indian laws in the third phase? Answer. The main focus of the Indian laws in the third phase was on combining economic development with social and environmental issues. The legislations are directed towards ensuring the sovereignty rights of the countries over their genetic and biological resources and the acceptance of the need to share benefit flowing from the commercial utilization of biological resources with holders of indigenous knowledge. Question 2. Explain the main source or object of the Biological Diversity Act 2002. The Biological Diversity Act 2002 is an act of the Parliament of India which was enacted for preservation of biological diversity in India. It provides a mechanism for inequitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of traditional biological resources and knowledge, under which act can be prevent misappropriation of indigenous knowledge of communities. The Patents Amendments Act of 2005 has a provision to prevent misappropriation of indigenous knowledge of communities by making it non-patentable. Question 4. What does the term right-based approach mean? The fourth phase 2005 and beyond is marked as a proactive right-based approach. The main focus of rights and based approach is on ensuring the rights of all sections of community, particularly the marginalized. These include legislations like the Human Rights Act in 1993. With Amendment Act 2006, the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009, and the Commission for the Protection of Child Act 2005, Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and the Senior Citizen Act 2007, People with Disabilities Act 1995, etc. Terminal questions. Explain the concept of sustainable development. The sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It contains two key concepts. The concept of needs, in particularly the essential need for the world's poor, to which overriding priority should be given. The idea of limitations imposed by the state of technology and social organization on the environment's ability to meet present and the future needs. The concept of sustainable development can be interpreted in many different ways, and and its core is an approach to development that looks to balance different and often competing needs against an awareness of the environmental, social, economical limitations we face as a society. The satisfaction of human needs and aspirations in the major objectives of development, the essential needs of vast numbers of people in developing countries for food, clothing, shelter, jobs are not being met. And beyond their basic needs, these people have legitimate aspirations for an improved quality of life. A world is which poverty and inequality are endemic will always be prone to ecological and other crises. Sustainable development requires meeting the basic need of all and extending to all the opportunity to satisfy their aspirations for a better life. What is the Brundtland Report and how does it define sustainability? In 1983, the World Commission on Environment and Development (WCED), conveyed by the United Nations, was created to address growing concern about the consequences of the accelerating deterioration of the human environment and the natural resources. The outcome of the work by the WCED was the report Our Common Future. The report was quickly named the Brundtland Report in recognition of the chairman of the WCED, Gro Harlem Brundtland. The report was published in 1987 and was the first to focus on global sustainability. It addressed governments, businesses, and overall people whose welfare should be a key element on environmental and development policies. It provided a comprehensive overview of the major global environmental crises and suggestions on how to solve these problems. The Brundtland reports place environmental issues firmly on the political agenda with the aim to discuss environment and development as a single and identical issue. According to the Brundtland report, sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It contains within it two key concepts. The concept of need, in particularly the essential needs of the world's poor, to which the overriding priority should be given. The idea of limiting imposed on the state of the technology and social organization on the environment's ability to meet present and the future needs. Question 3. Describe sustainable development through examples highlighting the three components of sustainability. Answer. When it comes to describing sustainability in our world, we need to be concerned about the three main areas of influence. There are three interconnected spheres of sustainability that describe the relationships between the environmental, economical, and the social aspects of the world. First, environmental sustainability. In a truly sustainable environment, an ecosystem would maintain populations, biodiversity, and overall functionality over an extended period of time. Ideally, decisions that are made should promote equilibrium within our natural systems and seek to encourage positive growth. Unnecessary disturbances to the environment should be avoided whenever possible. Economic sustainability. Similar to environmental sustainability, economic sustainability involves creating economic values out of whatever project or decision you are undertaking. Economic sustainability means that the decisions are made in the most equitable and the fiscally sound way possible while considering the other aspects of the sustainability. In most cases, projects and decisions must be made with the long-term benefits in mind, rather than just the short-term benefit. Keeping in mind that even only the economic aspects of something are considered, it may be necessary to promote true sustainability. There are several key ideas that make up economic sustainability. For example, government should look to promoting smart growth through go-nonsense land use planning and subsidies or tax breaks for green development. Social sustainability. Social sustainability is based on the concept that a decision or the project promotes the betterment of society. In general, future generations should have the same or the greater equality of the life benefit as the current generations do. The concept also encompasses Many things such as human rights, environmental law, and the public involvement and participation. Failing to put emphasis on the social part of decision or action can result in the slow collapse of the spheres of the sustainability and the society as well. One great example of social sustainability is the passing of the Clean Water Act in 1972. The Safe Drinking Water Act in 1974. Overall, these sets of laws were great pieces of legislation and that set minimum water quality standards for both surface and drinking water. Why do we need sustainable development? For all, for an ill for an all inclusive growth, we need sustainable development. The essence of sustainable development is a stable relationship between human activities and the natural world, which does not diminish the prospects for future generations to enjoy a quality of life at least as good as our own. The environmentally sustainable economic growth is synonymous to the relevant concept of sustainable development, the goal of which is to achieve growth, balance, harmony between environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and socio-political sustainability. The aim of sustainable development is to balance our economic, environmental, and the social needs, following prosperity for how and future generation. Sustainable development consists of a long-term integrated approach to developing and achieving a healthy community by jointly addressing economic, environmental, and the social issues. While avoiding our consumption of key natural resources, sustainable development encourages us to converse and enhance our resource base, our gradually changing the ways in which we develop use technologies. These include social progress and equality, environmental protection and conservation of natural resources, and stable economic growth. Thus, we need sustainable development. What is the importance of institutional mechanism in achieving sustainability? Explain with the help of an example. The importance of structured institutions like the various ministries and departments in attaining sustainability cannot be denied. Global Global intergovernmental actions began with the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm 1972. Most Stockholm and the post-Rio nations across the world have adopted a number of laws pertaining to the three pillars of sustainable development. India too has implemented a plethora of laws. The judiciary in India has often taken the lead of the implementing the laws. India laws on sustainable development can broadly be seen to give developed in our instinct and the overlapping phases. Discuss the importance of the Stockholm Declaration, highlights its main features. In the 1972 Stockholm Declaration is a key of instrument of modern international environmental law. It provided a negotiated framework within which sovereign states could develop a coordinated and a cooperative approach towards international environmental law. It is very much a product of its time. It's very much a product of its time. A non-binding set of principles and that have threaded their way through their various treaties over the last 40 years. The Stockholm slogan was only one earth. During the conference, the environmental debate centered around the Club of Rome report of the limits to growth and the talk of economic development. The report highlights the consequences of unrestrained growth and the linkages between the several global problems. Question 7. Enumerate the main features of the Rio Declaration Agenda 21. Answer. The Rio Declaration Agenda 21 means taking steps in achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. The main features of the Rio Declaration Agenda are: first, equal consideration of environment, society, and economy. Second, intergenerational solidarity, keeping the mind needs of the future generation. Third, a global conscience and the political commitment at the national and the international levels. Fourth, involvements of the non-governmental organizations towards the aim of sustainable development. Fifth, providing a blueprint of the government to attain a balance between the environment and the needs of the population. Establishment of a commission on sustainable Establishment of a commission on sustainable development (CSD) to follow the Rio agreements and for monitoring agreements on the future summit of local, national, regional, and the international levels. Discuss the significance of the World Summit on Sustainable Development (WSSD). Answer: the World Summit WSSD was held in the Johannesburg, South Africa. It urged the nations to make progress in the formulation and implementation of strategies for sustainable development and to begin implementing them by 2005. The Johannesburg Summit to be one of the largest and the most important international meetings over held on the integration of the economic, environmental, and the social decision making. Its main was to main to on building a commitment to the highest level of government and society to better implement Agenda 21, the roadmap for achieving sustainable development, and adopted at the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Question 9. Discuss the important features of the first phase of Indian environmental laws. The main focus of the first phase of the Indian environmental law was and protection of the environment. The main features were the constitutional amendments and the enjoyments of the legislation to protect the wildlife and to arrest water and air pollution. For example, through Article 51 AG, protection of the environment was made a fundamental duty of all citizens. In addition, several acts pertaining to the environment were formulated, namely the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the Water Prevention and the Control Population Act of 1974, the